Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? It is Memorial Day here in America. I had to work today, which was not awesome, but oh well, it pays the bills. The cool thing about today is, fingers crossed that no snafus happen. We're going to play All for One Regime Diabolique again. And so No Inquisitor is going to be our game master tonight. And hopefully he, broadcasts it live or just uploads it later on so you can all share in the fun. Because what's more fun than the four of us playing Musketeers, saving France and then fighting werewolves and God knows what else. This video is not about that. I'm just kind of like, happy that we get to do this again. Kind of cool. This video isn't really about Lamentations of the Flame Princess either. It kind of deals with a situation that came up in a Lamentations of the Flame Princess Google group and pertains to the game, but it kind of can pertain to, I guess, for lack of a better word, I would say, actions having consequences. I turn into a kind of a rules lawyer and a curmudgeon. Oh my God, I'm a rules lawyer. yeah, I'm a curmudgeon. But anyhow, let's get on with it. Michael Weber is the guy's name. He posted this Lamentations of the Flame Princess Google group thing. Quick question before I go through the whole rule book. A magic user has lost her tongue. Doesn't really go into how that happened, so up to your imagination. Can she never cast magic again? Are spoken words or chants an absolute must? Is there a way through magic to regain the tongue? And then he goes on to say, I'd kind of enjoy it if the player does as well, if she kept that character and played her as mute, but that wouldn't be fun if she couldn't do magic anymore. How do you handle that? And so there's all kinds of great answers in terms of creative answers on there. I had a couple. I figured, well, you could kind of beef up the semantic and material components of the spells if you really wanted to. And people had all kinds of really creepy, ideas of like grafting on different tongues and demon pacts and, grafting on the tongue of stuff. There'd be all kinds of goodies in there. And a lot of rule of cool and just say yes and what have you. However, I was thinking about it, and I had to look in the game. So I picked up my trusty copy of the Lamentations of the Flame Princess Player's Guide, and as I thought, there are no restoration or regeneration type spells in that particular game. So there's nothing that's going to restore the tongue in terms of a spell as written. I think I even mentioned that you could use that kind of Matt Finch rule from Swords and Wizardry, where there's big magic. Make something up, make some kind of crazy ritual or stuff to get the new tongue, which I think is cool. If you do it that way, where it's not a spell as written. However, let's go back to rules as written and actions having consequences. So I looked up also, and sure enough, this game does not break things down into like verbal components and somatic components and material components, like some other D&D games, the original D&D did, like first edition and what have you. Some of the variants and retro clones and what have you have done that. This just pretty much is just blanket. And page 82, I found what I was looking for here, and it says, there we go. Magic user must have both hands free and be able to recite the incantation freely. Character that is bound, gagged, silenced, or otherwise unable to gesture or speak cannot cast spells. It goes on to a couple, say a couple other things. That's it. You can't do it. And so that's rules as written. And I started to think about it a little bit, and instead of taking it from like a rule of cool attack, or is this a real rule, or well, actually, and being a rules lawyer, I took it more from attack that like hey, in this particular game, and a lot of games, there's not a Hogwarts. It doesn't matter what setting you're using, and even the original poster actually talked about it. Michael talked about the idea that he's not playing in a typical Lamentations of the Flame Princess setting. He's doing more high fantasy and what have you, which is cool. I'm not arguing with him or anybody else. However, as I'm thinking about this, the vibe there is like magic is kind of crazy and unpredictable, and you're not towns don't have hedge wizards in the basic Lamentations of the Flame Princess vibe. There's not a Hogwarts around. Magic is a lot of times viewed with suspicion and distaste, and for good reason. So, it's a good chance that if somebody had their tongue cut out, if they were a wizard, it was for a reason. People did this for a purpose, probably so they couldn't cast magic anymore. Very much like, and I'm going to get the history wrong. I couldn't tell you what year it was, but when the English developed a longbow and started beating the crap out of the French armies, if the French caught English longbowmen, they would cut these fingers off, because then they can no longer draw the bow and kill them. And the English longbowmen would sit there and from what I understand, just kind of wave their fingers around, kind of taunting the French. Tonight, I'll be playing All for One, and we will get those English. We'll get them back, those Brits. But that's why they would cut those fingers off. And why wouldn't you just kill him? Well, it's probably more nasty to cut his fingers off. He can never do that again. And their fate's worse than death. as a character and as a player of a character. What if your magic users their tongue cut out and they can no longer cast magic? And so I kind of, like that vibe that, there are things worse than character death. And that's one of them. So I might, depending on the game, maybe ignore the rule of cool and ignore just say yes and say, yeah, you're kind of SOL at this point. You need a new character, or I guess they're going to be doing something else with the rest of their time. Maybe they should learn how to swing a sword or like filch stuff. What do you think?